The horrors unfolding in West Asia continue to make headlines. It is now going to be a month since the war broke out between Hamas militants and Israel. And as Israel continues its crackdown on the militant group through air and ground assaults, the country's defense forces have said that the head of Hamas's special security, Jamal Musa, has been killed in an Israeli midnight attack. The Israeli security forces have also arrested 23 people in East Jerusalem. They are accused of violence and incitement. Meanwhile, Jordan's King Abdullah said in a post on X that at midnight, Jordan's Air Force personnel airdropped urgent medical aid to the Jordanian Field Hospital in Gaza. The heads of 11 United Nations agencies and 6 humanitarian organizations have jointly appealed for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza, the protection of civilians and the swift delivery of food, water, medicine and fuel. The call for a ceasefire comes at a time when Israel continues to pound Gaza with significant strikes. According to the country's defense forces, its troops have encircled Gaza city, cutting the region in two parts, a north and a south.
היום, כוחות צה"ל, בהובלת סיירת גולני, כיתרו את העיר עזה. הם הגיעו עד לחוף הים, בחלק הדרומי של העיר עזה, והם כיתרו את העיר עזה, ובעצם היום יש עזה צפון ועזה דרום.
The Israeli army has also said its forces had struck over 2,500 terror targets since ground troops entered the Palestinian territory late last month. The Israeli army has also said that it has opened a humanitarian corridor to allow civilians in northern Gaza to evacuate south. While Israel continues to make advances through its ground assaults, Gaza was struck by fresh explosions on Sunday. The blasts and flares were seen in Gaza from southern Israel. Shortly before the strikes, internet and telephone lines were cut and the strikes continued overnight. According to health officials in Hamas-controlled Gaza, more than 9,700 people have been killed in the region, including 4,800 children. Meanwhile, in Tel Aviv, several rockets were flying directly over the city. The rockets were intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system. While in south of Lebanon, 4 civilians, 3 of them children, were killed by an Israeli airstrike on Sunday evening, raising the likelihood of a dangerous new escalation in the conflict on the Lebanon-Israel border.
العملية اليوم اللي صارت هي عملية إجرامية، عملية إرهابية. 3 أطفال أنا شفتهم، أنا حملتهم بإيدي. 3 أطفال احترقوا بالسيارة وما في حدا ينقذهم، وأمهم أنا شلتها وهي عم بتصرخ وتقول أولادي وين هو؟ وين هن الإرهابية؟ أنتوا الإرهابية يا إسرائيلية، وأنتوا الإرهابية يلي عم يدعموكم، وأمريكا هي رأس الإرهاب وهي أم الإرهاب.
Amid spiraling tensions over Israel's war with Hamas, America's top diplomat is on a Middle East tour focused on humanitarian aid for the Palestinians. Hours after an unannounced stop in Iraq, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Turkey in early hours of Monday to hold a diplomatic meeting. Turkey happens to be his last stop in the region before heading to Asia. In Turkey, Blinken met with his Turkish counterpart, Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, for talks on Gaza. For more on this, my correspondent Jody Cohen files this report from Renana on the presence of CIA Director William Burns in Israel amid the ongoing conflict. Take a look.
CIA Director Bill Burns is in West Asia for meetings with intelligence counterparts and political leaders. He'll be discussing the situation in Gaza, US support for negotiations on the release of the 240 hostages held in Gaza, and on deterring others from widening the conflict. The meetings follow an announcement by US Central Command that it has moved a nuclear submarine to the region, which is being seen as a warning to Iran and Hezbollah not to get involved in the Hamas-Israel war. The US has reportedly sent a message to Iran and Hezbollah that it would be prepared to intervene militarily if they launch attacks against Israel. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Antony Blinken has rejected calls for a ceasefire, saying it would leave Hamas able to commit further 7th of October-style massacres against Israelis, which the group has said it plans to do. President Biden has indicated that progress has been made on the idea of a humanitarian pause, and Israel has suggested that could happen if some of the hostages are released in tandem. This is Jodie Cohen for WION World is One.
WION World is One is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.